Welcome into Outkick the Show. I appreciate all of you. I hope you are having fantastic Mondays wherever you may be across this great country or this great land. I hope you enjoyed my 9-year-old and I playing cornhole challenge last night. I know everybody's desperate for some sports, something to bet on, something to be entertained by. I think like 100,000 of you have watched at least a portion of that video, so I think there are a lot of you that are interested in that. We got a lot to get to. I took off Saturday and Sunday. I hope all of you are having, like I said, fantastic Mondays. We got a lot to get to. Reports that the Olympics are going to be canceled in 2020, July in Tokyo, Japan. What in the world are the New England Patriots doing at the quarterback position? What about Cam? What about Jameis? And we begin with the coronavirus update. All right, people get mad at me because I'm not buying into the idea that we're all going to die over the coronavirus, all right? People are going to die. It is going to be bad. But what we have to balance, and I think a lot of people are starting to be intelligent to think about this, is we have to balance the economy with public health. And I'm encouraged because I've read pieces in the New York Times the last couple of days. Thomas Friedman had a good piece that was in there today. Thomas Friedman, I think, is one of the smartest national columnists in the country. And he was talking, and I think this is something that I started to raise. I believe on Friday there was an article from a Stanford epidemiologist, and he was talking about the difference between total war and targeted strikes. And what I have been advocating for a while is that we need people who are vulnerable, senior citizens, people with compromised immune systems, to be quarantining themselves in the weeks and maybe even the months ahead. And we need to assist those people. But we also need people who are otherwise going to be healthy to be able to go out and actually make sure that the economy does not collapse. And so I want to start off today's show by saying this. If you are fortunate enough to be in decent financial shape, go out and get takeout tonight for dinner. Tip the waiters, the waitresses, the food staff there as well as you can. Consider buying gift certificates to allow small businesses to help to make it through the challenges of this time. Let me say this. Right now in America, 60 million people are employed by small businesses. Many small businesses run on the thinnest of margins between being profitable and not being profitable. We're not talking about massive businesses that employ, 1,000 people or 2,000 people or more. We're talking about people that have an employment staff that might be 10, might be 15, might be 20, under 50 employees. And these are really the heartbeat of the American economy. Oftentimes, the individuals running these are not making some massive salaries, right? And these are the businesses that are most going to suffer right now from our shutdown. So if you have the financial resources to be able to do so, ordering takeout, going and picking it up, bringing it home, tipping the waiter, waitress staff, everybody there, potentially buying gift certificates is something fantastic that you can be doing to help out in some small measure for the challenges that we're seeing right now. I understand that there are lots of people focused on the health-related issues of the coronavirus. I don't think there's any lack there. What I believe is we have to keep in mind what the economic costs are of the coronavirus as well, because unemployment kills, all right? It's not as directly tangible as someone dying of an illness, but unemployment kills. It leads to higher rates of suicide, higher rates of depression, higher rates of hypertension, stress in the family for mom and dad over whether they're going to be able to feed their kids. And this is a conversation that I don't think we have been having and we need to have going forward, okay? Everything, when you break it down from an economic perspective, has to be considered, not just the coronavirus from an illness perspective. Because there are significant health costs associated with unemployment, which is about to skyrocket. And when that occurs, all of those impacts are going to be brought to bear frequently on the least able to handle that element of unemployment, right? Because the first people to lose their jobs, by and large, in economic uncertainty are the people with the least resources and the least savings and the less opportunity to adjust their spending. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck in this country. And when the unemployment rate starts to rise, the first people to lose their jobs are frequently the people who are already on the edges of society, the people who are barely making their rent payments, the people who can barely afford to pay for their car, the people who can barely afford for food for their kids. And I think we need to consider that as a large part of our public health analysis as well. And these jobs are drying up. We may have this week the worst single week of unemployment gains in the history of the country. And so I think we have to be careful as we rush off to fight this illness and remember that this is a multifaceted war. There are different angles. Just because you decide that you're going to stop the illness rate in this country as best you can doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best overall decision for the country to be making. Okay? Now, I want to give you some positivity on the numbers. Italy has been the focus of so many people in America. Like, there are a lot of people out there who are what I would call coronavirus bros, and they sit around on social media and they want to immediately argue that basically the world is going to end. There are a lot of people rooting for the world to burn. There are a lot of people who are in favor of these apocalyptic viral strategies to explode in the United States and around the world. I don't subscribe to that theory. I believe that Americans are going to beat the coronavirus. I believe that the world is going to beat the coronavirus, okay? We have to be smart. We have to be targeted. That was the best way to describe it. Instead of total war, we have to have targeted warfare and make the best possible decisions. And so I believe if you actually look at the data, in Europe, many things are starting to move in a positive direction. Now, I want to be clear about this because there's a lot of noise in the numbers. Okay? And the numbers are going to jump around in terms of death rates, in terms of new infections, and I'll talk about that in a second. So you have to be careful. I'm just trying to share the data, right? But the numbers are going to jump around quite a bit. This was a good sign on Sunday in Europe, all right? And I shared this, and it may well not be the case on Monday in Europe, okay? But every day that gets a little bit better is an overall positive. If things don't get worse, then that counts as getting better, right? So what I shared with you this morning was 100% accurate on Sunday in Europe. Italy, Spain, Germany, France, Switzerland, and England, the 6 European countries with the largest viral outbreaks on that continent, all had declining total new daily cases and/or deaths in the Sunday 24 hours surrounding there. May not be true on Monday. Today, when all the numbers come out as it gets closer to the end of the day there. But what is true, for 2 straight days, Italy has had declining numbers of new cases and declining numbers of death. Now, whenever I share this, people are like, yeah, the numbers are there's still X number of people that are dying. There's still X number of people that are getting ill. Yeah, you don't go from everybody being sick and everybody getting sick to it not existing in one day. The way that you make progress is incrementally. The first thing you do is you start to slow down the deaths. The second thing you would like to see is you start to slow down the incremental rate in new cases. Both of those things are happening in Italy the last 2 days. Will it happen on Tuesday as well? I don't know. I'm not sure what the numbers will reflect on Tuesday, but it's a very positive sign that the country that has been in the worst shape in Europe, Italy, has gotten better the last 2 days, okay? In the United States, our numbers have started to go up in terms of total new cases. Now, they went down on Friday and Saturday, according to the site that I regularly check, and then they went up in a big way on Sunday. It looks like they're going to be up again on Monday. But keep in mind, there's a lot of noise in this data right now because we are drastically increasing the number of tests that we are able to do every single day. And testing is a good thing because it gives us a better sense of the virus's growth and where it is spreading the fastest, right? So we are going to be able soon, if not already, to do 100,000 tests per day, okay? We're already up well over 50,000 tests per day, according to the White House briefing that was yesterday. And I encourage you to watch all of the different White House press briefings. So a lot of the things that we are doing are working well. I am optimistic. I believe that this is not the end of the world, that we are going to be able to triumph over this virus just like China did, just like South Korea did, just like Japan did, just like Singapore did, okay? We are going to be able to triumph over this disease. And what I would also report that I think is important is we're also starting to flip many of our factories almost World War II style over from producing, let's say, cars or other materials into starting to produce things that matter a great deal for our health care system. Ventilators. 3M, according to a report, is flipping a lot of their production and starting to produce a massive number of ventilators, masks, all different sorts of disposable gloves, everything that healthcare workers could need who are on the front lines. We have not had to do this in a long time, where we use our massive industrial capacity, and Ford and GM and Tesla, all these car companies are now flipping and going to start to produce a great deal of products. If you are a history buff, and I love reading about World War II. I'm reading a new book by Eric Larson right now about the 1 year. I'm going to tweet out the link to you if you're a history buff and you need something to read while you're sitting around the house and not able to work as much, about the 1 year when Churchill went head-to-head against Adolf Hitler during the bombing of Britain, and the first year that he was prime minister. And the ability of all of these industries to flip from producing consumer products that are designed to entertain us or make our lives easier to producing materials to be able to handle an onslaught. So this is, I believe, a good sign. America is coming to work to make America as a country safer. So this is, I believe, a very important direction that we are headed. I know people out there want to sell you songs of doom and gloom. They want to go on social media, and it's amazing. The minute that I share a fact of positivity, somebody immediately dives into the comments and they want to share a negative fact, okay? There's no doubt that there is negativity, much of it associated with the coronavirus. But the ultimate triumph is going to come when we beat the coronavirus, which we are going to do. This is not going to defeat us. This is why I wish people had a deeper understanding of history. Because if you had a deeper understanding of history, for instance, people are worried already about these primaries, the voting going on, and also the election, and whether we can have an election in 2020 in November. And I'm thinking to myself, are you guys crazy? We had an election during the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln had to get reelected during the Civil War. We had a presidential election during World War II. We had presidential elections during the Great Depression, okay? All of those things. We had an election during the last pandemic, the influenza, the Spanish flu that swept through in 1918 was a midterm year. We were able to do elections during the Civil War, during World War II, during the great influenza outbreak of 1918. We are going to be fine, okay? We're going to have an election in November. We'll elect somebody. I think that we will have this virus beaten as it starts to get warmer across the country and as our battle plan becomes more clear. I think it's going to become more targeted and surgical in nature because we have to get our economy back up and running too. We can't just shut down everything forever. But I believe all that's going to happen. Some people disagree with me. Some people want to sell doom and gloom, the idea that America is not going to triumph, that the coronavirus is going to run rampant over us, that it's going to be here for years and we're never going to be able to deal with it. I fundamentally reject that idea. There are lots of reasons for optimism. We've already started a trial on vaccines to see whether that's effective. We've got the New York Times had an article this morning that I was reading about 69 different already approved drugs that can have a substantial impact, they believe, in fighting the coronavirus, including this anti-malaria drug, which I believe they're going to start giving to some patients in New York in the next couple of days. But there are a lot of signs that drugs that we have already identified can be very helpful in combating the coronavirus. And I believe that somebody just said it's a cocktail. These drug cocktails that we are putting together, which allow us to fight the coronavirus, not a vaccine, but drugs that we can give to people who have this illness, is going to be a big, incredible, massive overall positive impact. So I believe we're headed for good things. I understand that people want to lose their minds and they want to run around like their hair is on fire. We are going to be fine. And that's why I've been telling you, I'm buying stocks. I am buying stocks right now because ultimately I believe that American economy and American capitalism is going to triumph over time. Doesn't mean that I guarantee you that stocks are going to be up 3 months from today. Doesn't mean that I can guarantee you that stocks are going to be up tomorrow. Doesn't mean that I can guarantee you that 6 months from now or even a year from now stocks are going to be up. But over time, we are 100% going to be fine. And it will take a while, potentially, for stocks to regain their where they were before. But I believe the smartest thing you can do, a lot of you who don't invest regularly, I wouldn't buy individual stocks. A lot of what I buy is S&P 500 index funds. That's an exposure to the 500 largest companies in America. That way, you're buying everything. Disney, Apple, every different possible scope of business. It's by far the safest thing you can buy because it's like anything else. You could be right about the stock market coming back and pick the wrong stocks to bet on. The vast majority of your assets, in my opinion, if you are investing, should be, beyond a shadow of a doubt, in S&P 500 index funds. Having said that, if you want to buy individual stocks, gambling stocks have been hammered. I am buying gambling stocks right now. They have been absolutely destroyed, decimated, losing 70, 80% of their value. If you believe, as I do, that Americans are not going to stop gambling, and they're certainly not going to stop gambling on sports either, sooner or later, America is going to come back to normal. Buy multiple different gambling stocks, the MGMs, the Caesars, the Wins, individual sports gambling stocks like Stars Group, which is where Fox Bet is, like Penn National, which is where Barstool is, like William Hill, which has been absolutely hammered. You don't know that necessarily all those companies are going to survive, and you don't know that they are going to thrive either. But I'm pretty confident that people aren't going to stop gambling, right? Most people have very limited horizons. 3 years from now, people are going to be gambling in huge numbers. They're going to be watching football. They're going to be gambling like crazy. If you can think on a 3-year horizon where you don't need any of your money over the next 3 years and longer, I like to buy and hold the stocks that I like, you are going to be fine, okay? So that is, I believe, the direction you should be going. If you want stock advice, don't take individual stocks. Buy S&P 500 funds, 500 index funds. It's easy to do. All right, several different things. It is going to be interesting here to look at the Olympics. The Olympics, it appears, are going to be held off for at least a year. They were taking place in Tokyo, Japan. A lot of athletes are saying, basically, I saw 87% of them said our ability to train has been curtailed. 78% of them, 4,000 of them were polled. They would prefer that the Olympics happen in another year. I think that makes a lot of sense to look forward into the future. If you're unclear exactly when everything's going to be back up and running, I think it can make sense to take the Olympics to next year. To me, that seems like a fairly smart decision if you want to not have to worry about exactly where this coronavirus is going to be. I believe that we are going to be fine. I think by the summer, sports will be back up and running. Some of you asked, do you think football will be back in the fall? Yes, but I don't have a date certain, and neither do you, and neither does anybody out there. So if you don't have a certain date of when you know you're going to be back up and running, and significantly when you're going to be able to handle everything, this is, I believe, a big part of why you wait for a year. Can work just as well in 2021, come back in 2024. That makes a lot of sense to me. All right, what doesn't make sense? I have no idea what the New England Patriots are doing at quarterback. It appears that Bill Belichick may really believe in former Auburn quarterback Jarrett Stidham. He has made the decision to go ahead and bring in Brian Hoyer as a old backup for a relatively small amount And it doesn't seem like he really wants to go out in the free agent market. Cam Newton is out there. Jameis Winston is out there. Andy Dalton is out there. They also have the number 23 overall pick. But right now, judging by what Bill Belichick is doing, it appears to me that he's ready to roll with Jarrett Stidham and with Brian Hoyer. Now, maybe he'll go draft another quarterback, but this is, to me, absolutely crazy to think about the Patriots going from Tom Brady, who they had for almost exactly 20 years, to now rolling with Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer. To me, and we had Tom Curran on the show this morning. If you didn't listen to Outkick the Coverage, the radio show's still rolling all 3 hours every day. He told us that he had talked inside the Patriot facility and that there was a huge debate or huge excitement, I should say, about the Patriots wanting to win more games this year in New England than Tom Brady won down in Tampa Bay. So this is a massive battle for the legacies now of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. And each of them wants to demonstrate that the reason why this team succeeded is because of them. And so Belichick is going all in. Brady is going all in. This should be absolutely phenomenal to watch. It's also possible that Belichick decides, you know what, I want to tank. I want to tank. They just cut Gostkowski, their kicker. They've obviously let Tom Brady walk. They have major salary cap issues associated with Brady. It's possible that they are going to decide to tank. Now, it seems like it's anti-everything Belichick could possibly want, but this is an older team. Maybe he's in love with Trevor Lawrence. Maybe there's a young quarterback in this draft that he's absolutely enamored of. If that's the case, then I think there's a decent chance that New England is starting to dial back to persuade itself to go forward in the years ahead. All Belichick has to do now is win one Super Bowl without Tom Brady. If he wins one Super Bowl without Belichick, it's an ultimate feather in his cap. If Tom Brady could go down to Tampa Bay, and Tom Curran told us he expects Brady to be one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL this year, throwing to Chris Godwin, throwing to Mike Evans, throwing to O.J. Howard, throwing to Cameron Brate, if he's able to make big-time plays with this offense and put the Bucs back in the playoffs for the first time in 12 years, it's going to be flat-out incredible to see. So that is in of itself one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting storylines to follow as we go through the rest of free agency and move closer and closer towards the NFL draft next month. All right, 2 big quarterbacks that are out there that still have to make decisions about what they're going to do. I think the single most intriguing player that is still available right now on the marketplace is Cam Newton. Because Cam Newton has gone from winning a Heisman Trophy, winning a national championship, winning a NFL MVP, going to the Super Bowl, to at the age of 31 potentially being done. And if Cam Newton is 31, but he's not the kind of guy who wants to go stand on the sideline and hold a clipboard and hope one day to get another chance. This guy has a high ego. He believes he's an incredibly talented player. He's got the hardware to back it up with being an MVP. How much does he have left in the tank? And what is the market demand that is out there for Cam Newton? Because I'm going to be honest with y'all. Assuming that the Patriots don't make a decision that they want to bring in Cam Newton, I don't see a single team that is likely to say to Cam Newton, you are our starter. And if that is the situation, is it possible Cam Newton continues to rehab to get healthy from the surgery that he had and waits to see if somebody gets hurt early in the season to come in as sort of the white knight to save their season? I don't know where he makes a lot of sense going forward, but remember, he's only 31 years old. Could he pull an Andrew Luck and just say, screw it, I'm done with football? I think that's also possible. Cam Newton, single most intriguing player available on the marketplace right now. Anyone who claims they have any idea exactly what it's going to look like is crazy. Is it possible Cam goes to the Washington Redskins? Yes, I could see that. To potentially back up Dwayne Haskins or win that job with Ron Rivera, his old coach, I could see that. I know the Chargers say they're not interested. I could see that move. Maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars with Gardner Minshew, if the price is right. All of those are worth contemplating, but Cam is the single most fascinating free agent in all of the NFL right now. The other most fascinating free agent, I think, in all of the NFL is Jameis Winston. Because Jameis Winston looked like he was going to get signed to a long-term deal last year, but then he fell apart. And in particular, he fell apart in London. Jameis Winston looked like he was going to be okay. Goes into London, throws 5 interceptions or whatever the heck it was. And according to Peter King's column this morning, when they were on the plane flying back from England, Bruce Arians said, we have to start considering all the quarterbacks that might be available out there. And according to Peter King's column, number 1 target was Tom Brady. They get him. Number 2 target was Teddy Bridgewater, who ultimately ended up in Carolina, but they were going to get him if not. Jameis Winston holds an incredible distinction, which nobody else in the last 40 years of the NFL has managed. In his first ever pass against the Tennessee Titans, Jameis Winston threw a pick 6. First ever pass for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, pass 1 in his career. In his very last pass for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 5 years later, he throws a pick 6. On both the beginning and the end of his NFL career, it was like a perfect circle. If you remember back in True Detective days, time indeed was a flat circle, as Russ Cole said. There was absolutely no difference. Opening pick, pick 6. Final pick of his career in Tampa Bay, pick 6. Where does Jameis have to go? I think it could make sense for him to go to Jacksonville. I think the Washington Redskins could make sense. I don't think they would roll the dice and make that decision in New England, but there's at least a possibility that Jameis Winston could go there. This is going to be an intriguing storyline to follow because I don't think Jameis has very many good options, just like I don't think Cam Newton has very many good options, or for that matter, Andy Dalton. Effectively, we got a game of musical chairs with starting jobs in the NFL, and the music has stopped, and there's not enough jobs left for the quarterbacks who are still standing, whether it's Andy Dalton, whether it's Jacoby Brissett, whether it is Cam Newton, whether it is Jameis Winston. There are a lot of people who need starting jobs, and there aren't going to be that many starting jobs open. All right. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. Don't succumb to fear porn. Look at the facts. Know that long range, we are going to be fine. Think of a horizon of a year, 6 months, as opposed to 6 days or, God forbid, tomorrow. We are going to be fine. By the way, tip from my family to yours. We watched on Saturday night Onward, which I believe is the name of the new Pixar movie. It's out on demand. You can watch it in your house if you're looking for something affordable to do with your family. If your kids are going crazy, being out of school, not being able to leave the house, not being able to play sports, check it out. Onward. We really enjoyed it. My family liked it. I think your family probably will as well. DBAP, like I said, unless you need to SBAP. My name is Clay Travis. I will see you guys tomorrow morning on radio. Still no lock it in. We're hoping to get it back at some point soon. The Fox studios, because of the California law, are shut down to a large extent. So we'll have to see exactly how that goes. Love you guys. See y'all. Bye. Thank you, Facebook. See y'all.